How much history is hidden within the DNA of the peoples of the Middle East? Much is said about the ancient biblical tribes, but do we truly know their real genetic identity? In this video, we will dive deep into the fascinating genetic heritage of modern Jews, exploring three main groups: the Mizrahim, the Ashkenazim, and the Sephardim. But we won't stop there. We will also investigate the genetic lineage of the ancestral Arab tribes that still inhabit the region, such as the Ishmaelites, descendants of Ishmael, the Edomites, descendants of Esau, the Midianites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, and the Joktanite descendants of Joktan. The big question many ask is, which present-day Jewish communities are genetically closest to the ancient Israelites? And to what extent has intermixing influenced both Jews and Arabs over the centuries? The answers are hidden in genetic markers that have traversed millennia, either preserving ancestral traits or blending with other populations. Does science confirm historical and biblical narratives, or will it reveal something unexpected? Get ready for a revealing journey into the secrets of Jewish and Arab DNA. And before we begin, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content like this. The archaeological sites of Tel Beth-Shin and Tel Megiddo, both mentioned in biblical texts, hold extraordinary significance for archaeogenetic studies. Thanks to samples obtained from these locations, we can deepen our understanding of the genetic ancestry of the ancient Israelites. These samples provide the foundation for investigating the genetic composition of ancient peoples and their connection to contemporary Jewish populations. From these studies, we know that the ancient Israelites were descendants of at least three major genetic groups that together constitute their DNA. These groups are the Natufians, Neolithic Anatolians, and Neolithic Iranians. The genetic contributions from these populations shaped the Semitic DNA characteristic of various ancient Semitic communities, encompassing not only Jews and Israelites, but also Arabs, Syrians, Palestinians, and other populations in the region. These discoveries are crucial for reconstructing the genetic history of the region, especially in the context of the Bronze Age. They offer a detailed view of the formation and evolution of Semitic populations, revealing deep genetic connections among Middle Eastern peoples. Furthermore, by studying these genetic fractions, we can identify migration patterns, cultural interactions, and environmental adaptations that significantly influence the history of local populations. In summary, the sites of Tel Beth-Shin and Tel Megiddo play a pivotal role in understanding the genetics and ancestral history of Semitic peoples, helping build a bridge between the past and the present of Jewish communities and neighboring populations. Let's begin by discussing the Ashkenazi Jews, also known as Ashkenazim, or European Jews. This group has been the subject of much debate and speculation over time, particularly regarding their genetic origins and ancestry. One of the most widespread yet mistaken theories is that Ashkenazi Jews are descendants of Turks, or the Khazar people, a nomadic group that supposedly adopted Judaism. However, this idea is a myth, widely debunked by science and historical research. Robust genetic studies and historical analyses confirm that Ashkenazi Jews do indeed have a direct lineage tied to the ancient Israelites. However, it's important to acknowledge that over the centuries, there was intermixing with European populations, which is evident in certain physical traits and genetic markers of this group. Despite these external influences, Ashkenazi Jews retain a genetic identity clearly connected to their ancestral Jewish origins. The term Ashkenazi derives from Ashkenaz, an ancestor associated with European groups, particularly Germanic ones. According to Jewish traditions and records, this name came to designate the Jewish communities established in Central and Eastern Europe. Today, Ashkenazi Jews make up a significant portion of the global Jewish population and represent one of the main groups among Jews living in Israel. Although conspiracy theories still circulate, claiming that Ashkenazi Jews are Turks who converted to Judaism rather than genetic or ethnic Jews, these claims lack scientific foundation. Recent genetic studies show that only about 1.5% of Ashkenazi Jews' DNA can be traced back to Turkish populations. This small genetic contribution does not alter the primary composition of their DNA, which is predominantly Semitic and directly linked to the ancient Israelites. Therefore, Ashkenazi Jews are a clear example of the complexity of historical and genetic trajectories, combining their Jewish ancestry with the influence of European populations. Now let's address the ancient Semitic DNA present in Ashkenazi Jews and its relationship to the ancient Israelites. Genetic studies indicate that, on average, Ashkenazi Jews have about 39% ancient Israelite Semitic DNA in their current genetic makeup. However, this percentage can vary between individuals, reflecting the varying degrees of intermarriage present within this population. A large portion of Ashkenazi Jews' DNA is of European origin, representing about 57% to 60% European ancestry. This intermixing occurred over centuries, primarily while these communities lived in Central and Eastern Europe. On the other hand, the Israelite Semitic contribution is smaller in comparison, varying according to specific subgroups within the Ashkenazi population. For example, German Ashkenazi Jews have between 24% and 14% ancient Israelite DNA. Lithuanian Ashkenazi Jews range from 29% to 22%. Polish Ashkenazi Jews have between 27% and 16% ancient Israelite genetics. These data show that despite the significant European contribution, Ashkenazi Jews maintain a remarkable genetic connection to the ancient Israelites. However, in terms of proportion, Ashkenazi Jews are third when it comes to direct descent from the ancient Israelites, due to the greater European intermixing compared to other Jewish groups. Nevertheless, the presence of ancient Jewish Semitic DNA in Ashkenazi Jews confirms their ancestry and historical connection to the ancient Israelites. The intermarriage over time reflects the complex history of this group, which adapted and survived in different cultural and geographical contexts without losing its Jewish identity. Thus, while genetic composition varies, Ashkenazi Jews remain an integral part of the historical and cultural continuity of the Jewish people. Now let's discuss Sephardic Jews, the second largest Jewish group in terms of direct descent from the ancient Israelites. The term Sephardic comes from Sepharid, a historical reference to the Iberian Peninsula, which includes Spain and Portugal. These Jews primarily lived in this region, but they were also present in parts of the Maghreb, such as Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria. Their history and dispersion reflect a rich interaction with Iberian and North African cultures. Sephardic Jews have a higher proportion of ancient Israelite Semitic DNA than Ashkenazi Jews, with around 40% to 50% of their genetic composition coming from ancient Israelite ancestry. This data reinforces their direct and significant connection to the ancient Israelites, positioning them as one of the Jewish groups with the greatest preservation of Semitic genetics. However, like the Ashkenazim, Sephardic Jews also show intermingling with other populations. Approximately 27% of their DNA is of Southern European origin, reflecting their long interactions with the peoples of the Iberian Peninsula and the Mediterranean. Additionally, they carry genetic traces linked to the populations of the Maghreb, including Semitic, Berber, and Arab components, ranging from 8% to 18%. This diversity demonstrates the influence of centuries of coexistence with North African populations. Another interesting aspect of Sephardic genetics is the presence of about 19% of DNA related to ancient European populations, indicating intermingling with prehistoric European peoples. These genetic traces highlight the complexity and breadth of the historical connections of Sephardic Jews with different regions and cultures. In terms of the preservation of ancient Israelite genetics, Sephardic Jews rank second, surpassing the Ashkenazim. This is due to the lower influence of European intermarriage and a greater retention of Semitic genetic traits. However, both groups maintain a significant connection to the ancient Israelites, as evidenced by genetic studies confirming their common origin despite regional and historical differences. Sephardic Jews represent a vital link in preserving the genetic and cultural heritage of the Jewish people. Their genetic composition not only reaffirms their connection to the ancient Israelites, but also illustrates the influence of centuries of intermingling with European and North African populations. While intermarriage has shaped their genetics over time, Sephardic Jews maintain a deeply rooted Jewish identity, both culturally and genetically, solidifying their role as one of the major Jewish communities in history. It is important to note that all this information is based on statistical studies and genetic analyses of contemporary Jewish populations. Now let's talk about Middle Eastern Jews, known as Mizrahi Jews, whose name derives from the Hebrew word Mizrach, meaning east. This group includes Jews who remained in the Middle East outside the territory of Israel, residing in countries such as Syria, Iraq, Iran, and others. Genetic studies place Mizrahi Jews as the Jewish group with the highest proportion of ancient Israelite DNA, highlighting them as the closest genetically to the ancient Israelites. Among the Mizrahim, Syrian Jews have about 69% ancient Israelite Semitic DNA, indicating a direct and substantial connection with the ancient Jews. Additionally, they have approximately 18% intermingling with European populations, a significantly smaller percentage compared to Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews, and 6% Maghrebi DNA, possibly resulting from limited interactions with North African populations. Iraqi Mizrahi Jews show even more impressive numbers. Studies indicate that 85.2% of their DNA is of ancient Israelite origin, making them genetically the purest among contemporary Jewish groups. This percentage reflects the genetic preservation that occurred in Jewish communities that remained in the Middle East, where they interacted less with external populations compared to European Jews. When comparing the Mizrahim with the Ashkenazim and Sephardim, it is evident that Mizrahi Jews maintain the highest proportion of ancient Israelite ancestry. This is largely due to their lower intermingling with European populations and the geographical continuity in the Middle East, which served as the historical cradle of the Jewish people. While Ashkenazi Jews have on average 39% of ancient Israelite DNA, and Sephardic Jews have between 40% and 50%, Syrian and Iraqi Mizrahi Jews present respectively 69% and 85.2%. These data reinforce the role of Mizrahi Jews as guardians of a genetic heritage that is closer to the ancient Israelites, despite small influences from other regional populations, such as Europeans and Maghrebis. Genetically, Mizrahi Jews are the Jewish group most connected to the ancient Israelites, reflecting a history of continuity in the Middle East. Although they have some mixture, especially with European and Maghrebi populations, their ancient Jewish ancestry is predominantly preserved, with numbers surpassing those of other Jewish groups, such as Ashkenazi and Sephardim. This genetic characteristic makes Mizrahi Jews essential for understanding Jewish history and ancestry, confirming their relevance both in preserving Semitic identity and in connecting with the ancestral past of the Jewish people. It is surprising to note that the only significant admixture found in the DNA of Iraqi Mizrahi Jews is related to the ancient Persians and Iranians, representing only 14% of their genetic composition. This reinforces the fact that these Jews have the closest descent from the ancient Israelites compared to any other Jewish group. Genetic studies unanimously agree that Iraqi Mizrahi Jews show the greatest genetic similarity to Bronze Age Jews, making them the most direct heirs of Israelite ancestry. Iranian Mizrahi Jews, or those from Iran, present around 38% of ancient Israelite Semitic DNA. However, they have greater admixture, with approximately 60% of ancient Iranian ancestry due to the historical influence of Persian populations in the region. Despite this greater admixture, their genetic connection to the ancient Israelites remains significant. The Jewish groups discussed here, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, and Mizrahim, are the primary representatives of modern Jewish populations in Israel. All share a common ancestry with the ancient Israelites, but in different proportions. Genetic studies show that paternally, all three groups are closely related, sharing Semitic genetic lineages originating from the Levant. However, with respect to maternal lineage, analyses show that Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews have a stronger connection to the ancient populations of the Middle East, surpassing the Ashkenazim. This maternal genetic predominance among Mizrahim and Sephardim reflects the heritage of the matriarchs, with an impressive continuity in the transmission of genetic traits over the centuries. This connection is particularly significant, as it indicates a more direct preservation of genetic elements from Jewish communities originating in the Levant. Genetic studies on Mizrahi, Sephardic, and Ashkenazi Jews provide a detailed overview of the ancestral roots of the Jewish people. Despite differences in the percentages of ancient Israelite Semitic DNA and degrees of admixture, all these groups maintain an undeniable genetic relationship with the ancient Israelites. Each one carries part of this heritage, contributing to the diversity and historical richness of contemporary Judaism. If you are already familiar with this information about the genetics of the major Jewish groups, or wish to dive deeper into the subject, leave your comments. There is much more to explore about the history and genetic peculiarities of each group. Before addressing the genetic issue of the various Arab tribes, it's important to clarify a common misconception that many people have about the origin of the Arabs. When asked about the ancestry of this people, the most frequent answer is that Arabs exclusively descend from Ishmael. However, when we analyze the biblical and historical genealogies, as well as the records preserved both among the Arabs themselves and among the Jews, we realize that this view is overly simplified. Ishmael is indeed one of the ancestors of many Arab tribes, but he is not the only one. Other biblical figures also gave rise to different Arab tribes, such as Esau, Midian, Ammon, Moab, and Joktan, known as Yoktan in Arabic and Yoktan in Hebrew, all descendants of Shem. The ancient and medieval Arabs themselves were fully aware of these genealogical distinctions. They clearly differentiated between the Arabs descended from Ishmael and those originating from Joktan and other Semitic ancestors. This understanding is crucial for anyone seeking to delve into the history and identity of Arab peoples throughout the centuries. Another important point that needs to be highlighted is that Arabs in general belong to the Semitic ethnic racial group, the same group to which Jews, Syrians, Assyrians, Chaldeans, Arameans, and other Middle Eastern peoples, such as the Akkadians, also belong. Due to this common origin, Arabs share a genetic relationship with the Israelites and Jews, making them therefore brother peoples, not only from a biological standpoint but also linguistically. This bond is well documented, as the Arabic language belongs to the same linguistic family as Aramaic, which in turn is related to various other Semitic languages historically spoken in the region. This linguistic and cultural closeness reinforces the historical interconnectedness of these peoples over the centuries. Many people believe that the Ishmaelites were the first Arabs, but this idea does not match the historical reality. Even before the emergence of the descendants of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, various Arab tribes had already established themselves in the southern Arabian Peninsula. These tribes were known as the Joktanite Arabs, descendants of Khotan, a figure that interestingly corresponds to the biblical Joktan. Medieval Arab genealogists clearly distinguish the descendants of Ishmael from the Arabs of southern Arabia, who came from the lineage of Khotan. This distinction is mentioned in the Bible. In Genesis 10:24-26, and Arpachshad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. To Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and the name of his brother was Joktan. And Joktan fathered Almodad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadaram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, the ancestors of the ancient Sabaeans, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. From this lineage of Joktan came the southern Arab tribes, including the Sabaeans, one of the most notable peoples of antiquity in Arabia. Thus, the Arab presence in the region predates the Ishmaelites. The various sons of Joktan gave rise to the southern Arabian tribes, known as Joktanite or Joktanite Arabs. These peoples had already inhabited the region before the emergence of the famous Ishmaelite Arabs, descendants of Ishmael, the son of Abraham. The Ishmaelite Arabs originated from Ishmael, who fathered 12 tribes, forming an important branch of Arab ancestry. However, upon examining the genealogical chronology, it becomes clear that the Ishmaelites were actually the second major Arab group, not the first. Before them, the Arab tribes descended from Joktan were already established in Arabia, reinforcing the diversity of the Arab people's origins. When exploring the diversity of Arab tribes, we realize that, in addition to the Ishmaelites, other peoples are also considered Arabs. Among them are the descendants of Lot, who gave rise to 2 nations, the Moabites and the Ammonites. Both groups are recognized as Arabs and formed from the children of Lot, born from an incestuous relationship with his daughters after they made him drunk. This story is found in the book of Genesis 19:30-38. In addition to these, there are also 6 Arab tribes descended from Abraham through his second wife, Keturah. These tribes are Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Among them, the most notable is the tribe of Midian, whose name was eventually used to refer to all the other tribes of this genealogical branch. Finally, there are 14 more Arab tribes described in the book of Genesis 36, starting from verse 15. These tribes are descended from Esau, the son of Isaac, and formed the nation of the Edomites. The Edomite tribal chiefs were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. In addition to them, there were also Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, Mizah, Jeush, Jalam, and another Korah, totaling 14 Edomite tribes. These records show the richness and complexity of the formation of the Arab people, composed of diverse lineages tracing back to different biblical and historical figures. From now on, I will address 3 Arab populations from the Middle East that have in their genetic makeup the heritage of the various biblical figures mentioned earlier. I will start with Jordan and the Jordanian Arab people. For those who do not know, Jordan is biblically identified as the land of Edom and also as the land of Uz, mentioned in the book of Job. Historically, this region has been occupied over the centuries and millennia by various Semitic populations, leaving their mark on the current ethnic composition of the Jordanian. Among the first peoples to settle in this region were the Ammonites and Moabites, descendants of Lot. Later, the 14 Edomite tribes originating from Esau also inhabited this land, and to this day, their genetics are present in the local Arab population. In addition to the Edomites, the region was later occupied by the Nabateans, a people of great cultural and economic influence known for their impressive city of Petra. The Nabateans were descendants of Nebaioth, the son of Ishmael, and thus belonged to the Ishmaelite branch of the Arab genealogy. Thus, modern Jordan reflects a rich ethnic and historical heritage, bringing together the influences of the Ammonites, Moabites, Edomites, and Nabateans, demonstrating the continuity of the Arab presence in the region from biblical times to the present day. Based on various genetic studies, it is possible to trace the composition of the DNA of current Jordanians. The data indicate that about 73.2% of the Jordanian population's DNA has Semitic origins, stemming from the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and Ishmaelites. In some Jordanians, approximately 63% of ancient Semitic DNA is detected, reflecting the genetic heritage of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and Ishmaelites, peoples who have inhabited and still inhabit this region. In addition to Jordanian Arabs, who have more than 73% of their genetic composition from ancestors like the Ishmaelites, Moabites, and Ammonites, there is another Middle Eastern population that shares a similar genetic history: Palestinian Arabs. Palestinian Arabs prefer to be identified this way, and therefore I use this term. Genetic studies show that 73% of the genetic heritage of modern Palestinians dates back to the Bronze Age, derived from various Semitic populations that settled in the region. Among these ancestors, the Ishmaelites and Edomites stand out, as well as other groups that contributed to the formation of the present-day Palestinian people. This data reinforces the historical continuity of Semitic populations in the Middle East, highlighting that many of today's Jordanian and Palestinian Arabs carry the genetic legacy of the biblical peoples who inhabited these lands millennia ago. Many people ask me if Palestinians, or Palestinian Arabs, have ancestry from the ancient Philistines. My usual answer is as follows. Yes, Palestinian Arabs do have a small fraction of Philistine ancestry, but this is not the predominant lineage in their DNA. Genetic studies indicate that this heritage represents about 15% of the Palestinians' DNA, while the majority of their genetic composition is associated with Semitic peoples. Approximately 73% of Arab Semitic DNA is derived from groups such as the Ishmaelites, Edomites, and other Semitic peoples. This majority fraction of Semitic genetics is known in English as Levant Neolithic farmer. However, I prefer to call it the main genetic lineage of the descendants of Shem, as all Semitic peoples, whether Arabs, ancient Israelites, or other Jewish tribes, carry this ancestry in their genetic makeup. Furthermore, Palestinians have more than half of their DNA inherited from Semitic groups, such as the Edomites and Ishmaelites. Similarly, Jordanians have a genetic composition predominantly derived from the Moabites and Ammonites. This shows that despite cultural and historical differences, there is a strong genetic continuity between the Semitic peoples of the region, reinforcing the ancestral connection between these populations over millennia. The origin of Saudi Arabs is an extremely interesting and curious subject, especially when analyzed from a genetic perspective. According to the study, Saudi Arabian Y chromosome diversity and its relationship with nearby regions, Saudi Arabs have between 69% and 75% of their ancestry linked to Levantine groups. That is, the same Semitic peoples that form the genetic base of various tribes in the region. This data is particularly fascinating because the Bible presents a view that aligns with this genetic analysis. According to the biblical account, Abraham had 6 sons with Keturah, and from these descendants arose 6 tribes, including the Midianites, who gave rise to several ancient Arab populations. These tribes, in ancient times, inhabited the region of modern-day Saudi Arabia. Additionally, due to the geographical proximity between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, it is highly likely that part of the Saudi population also carries an ancient genetic heritage associated with Joktan. Thus, tribes like the Midianites, the descendants of Joktan, and the Ishmaelites form the genetic base of the Saudi Arab population, contributing to this significant fraction of 69% to 75% of DNA inherited from these ancient Semitic groups. I hope you enjoyed this analysis of the genetics of the Jewish and Arab peoples, as well as the various Arab tribes of antiquity. May God bless you, and see you soon.